Being a devoted fan of mixed martial arts, The Smashing Machine has been my most anticipated film of the year ever since its announcement. This is Benny Safdie's first feature-length film made without collaborating with his brother Josh, and I'm intrigued to see how the self-destructive nature of his characters will operate on a larger budget, one that is over twice the size of their most recent work, Uncut Gems. Examining the life of a fighting pioneer, the Silver Lion winner borrows his title from John Hyams' 2002 documentary, The Smashing Machine, The Life and Times of Extreme Fighter Mark Kerr. Alongside fellow professional WWE wrestler John Cena, The Rock is the most notable name to cross over into film from the sports world. While Cena is finding immense success in my favorite role of his yet with Peacemaker, I have exceedingly high hopes for The Rock's performance as Mark Kerr here. The Rock's training in professional wrestling here will translate to the screen better than a combat athlete without acting experience competing at the highest level. Kerr began his athletic career as an amateur wrestler, becoming a Division I NCAA champion at the collegiate level. WWE wrestlers are naturally inclined to showmanship. Performance is dictated by presentation, holding as much importance as raw athletic ability. Both the Safdie brothers' early work is doused in a palpable form of realism. Open wounds are windows to gaze through. From a technical perspective, a sense of sharpness is developed and prioritized through a mumblecore aesthetic. Josh Safdie's 2004 debut feature film, The Pleasure of Being Robbed, examines the life of a young kleptomaniac as she navigates the consequences of her lifestyle's self-destructive nature. Their 2009 collaboration, Daddy Longlegs, explores familial strife through the tonal channeling of John Cassavetes. Although martial arts genre cinema continues to thrive internationally, there hasn't been a film with this much mainstream appeal centered on the sport of mixed martial arts since Gavin O'Connor's film Warrior. Combat serves as catharsis here. Violence breathes into brotherhood. Cuts carve into flesh and split open scars through self-sustained spectacle. The compelling nature of the Safdie brothers' protagonists is that they are all prone to this self-destruction for the pursuit of escaping themselves or reaching an ultimate goal. Obsession in sport as fuel or deterrent, the balancing act of emphasis on character and craft, a new approach unravels upon each visitation. The person and persona are two separate distinctions in the world of mixed martial arts. Popular contemporary MMA documentaries have been rather sparse. Perennially ranked UFC lightweight Michael Chandler has a short film to his name. Much of it hasn't aged well, hyping up a potential bout with Conor McGregor that has still failed to materialize. Rising middleweight prospect Joe Pyfer is also the subject of a documentary chronicling his journey to the UFC, but he faced his first official loss in the promotion last year. The unforgiving nature of the combat sports landscape is reliant on words and the ability to back those with weight, or risk relentless ridicule. Hyams' documentary captures the need to win bouts under any circumstance at a time when victory triumphed above all else. Fighters who are proficient in the cage, but lack the so-called marketability, tend to lose favor in the eyes of promoters and matchmakers. This distinction has started to corrode the integrity of the sport for many, with fighters like Bilal Muhammad needing to string together 10 wins before even getting a title shot, while fighters from other promotions are given championship or number one contender opportunities. While they have the respect in the eyes of the hardcore fans, the financial opportunities for them are less lucrative. The Rock is one of the highest grossing and highest paid actors of all time, having a fair share of highs and lows in the industry. People often call his acting one-dimensional, harp on his affinity to work in blockbusters, and of course, bash how Black Adam failed to change the hierarchy of the then DC universe. However, his role in cult films like Southland Tales, consistency as a performer, and commanding physical presence each contribute to his appeal. Resisting his typecast status, The Smashing Machine seems to be his foray into telling stories with a vulnerable edge, working to gain a serious reputation outside of the blockbuster crowd. Newt Arnold's 1998 film Bloodsport is closer to a form of Vale Tudo, which serves as a direct precursor to the modern MMA rule set. Kerr's first 3 professional bouts took place in this practically no-hold-barred space. Back then, everything was legal, except for fish hooking, eye gouging, and biting. Early bouts were barely sanctioned with safety in mind, and even early UFC fights had no time limit, with no standardized kits even existing. Jean-Claude Van Damme capitalizes on the far-fetched nature of Frank Dux' story here in a pulpy manner, but the brutality of the now mythologized form of competition remains palpable. Kerr competed as a heavyweight with a grappling base and a penchant for vicious ground and pound. Without the implementation of USADA, short for the United States Anti-Doping Agency, athletes on performance-enhancing drugs were rampant. The Rock's already potent physical attributes will grant him the opportunity to showcase the shock and awe of Kerr's style, as well as the pushing of one's body to the limit. Before the UFC practically monopolized the sport of mixed martial arts, Pride FC's decade-long existence as a promotion garnered the biggest names, contributing to the modern archetypes of combat sports fighters. Kerr gained his nickname following his first MMA tournament with the reputation of being a marauder, taking punishment and delivering it in spades. The Rock's 2010 and 2020's body of work delivers largely on the spectacle side of the cinematic experience, where the dominant 3-act structure mode of production prevails. The emphasis of the ensemble in the modern franchise leaves little room for variation. Every new thrill is categorized as blockbuster or popcorn action. What's more interesting than no holds barred combat here? I'd say the discovery of the reason why people like Kerr gravitate toward it. Of course, the work of Bruce Lee contains both cultural and stylistic representations of various martial arts, with practitioners, stuntmen, and choreographers all contributing to this. From the diverse cast of Enter the Dragon to the monumental showdown in The Way of the Dragon between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, a practical and realistic form of striking begins to polish itself here. Lee's philosophy, outlined via his system of Jeet Kune Do, propels the fluid nature of each fight sequence. The difference in hand-to-hand combat is obvious here in comparison to traditional Hollywood productions, emphasizing the philosophical weight and kinetic rhythm of combat itself. Luckily, there's no lack of representation regarding both artistry and athleticism in the Smashing Machine. The supporting cast of the film contains 3 seasoned veteran combat sport athletes. Ryan Bader as Mark Coleman, Bas Rutten as himself, and Alexander Usyk as Igor Vovchanchin. Bader is still an active heavyweight fighter in Bellator and will take on the role of Coleman, a close friend of Kerr and fellow pioneer of the sport. Usyk is regarded as one of the greatest pound-for-pound boxers of the modern generation, holding a stacked resume with multiple belts. Kerr faced Vovchanchin twice in his career. Bas Rutten is the combat world's foremost street fighting specialist and veteran of multiple organizations. The craftsmanship is formidable on all fronts. While it seems like the film will primarily highlight Kerr's personal struggles and juxtapose them with the raw intensity of competition, the allure behind the humanity contained within his vulnerability intrigues me. Overcoming adversity, whether that be physical or mental, forms a paradoxical position in the mind of a fighter. Michael Bisping's 2021 documentary is candid in its approach, essentially serving as a visual companion to his biography by charting the ups and downs of his career. He's made plenty of appearances in film and television, most notably to me in the first episode of Twin Peaks: The Return as a security guard and in Triple Threat. Despite losing his eye eventually to a head kick from performance-enhanced Vitor Belfort, he eventually won the UFC middleweight championship in the later stages of his career. He's a prime example of an MMA fighter who now works in and out of the sport in the broader media landscape. Alongside the Smashing Machine, Jens Pulver Driven uses vulnerability as a blueprint and shows the isolation that fighters need to embrace and overcome simultaneously. You need to hurt your opponent in order to protect yourself, and the consequences of your time in the cage impact your life outside of it, as well as vice versa. Catharsis reinvents itself here in the face of pain, the 8-sided canvas where hurt is hard to escape from. The Rock's trajectory is unlike that of any of his film contemporaries. This is the start of a new path for him, and I'm all here for it. I admire all artists who tread the forbidden waters. Kerr is a fascinating athlete and person, and I have much hope that Johnson will exceed expectations in his role here. If you'd like to see visual posts that accompany every single video that I upload, as well as general updates, be sure to follow me on Instagram at CinemaToTheMax. My Patreon is linked in the description for anyone who would like to generously support my work even further. Thank you all very much for watching. I truly appreciate it.